Welcome to the Commercial Edge podcast with me, Chris Webber. Come and enjoy a virtual coffee while I share my experience and ideas that could help you overcome difficult people at work. I share my thinking and insights so that you can find new ways to overcome challenges and gain a commercial edge and unleash the power of people. So I'm really excited to be back here at the Orchard recording an episode of the podcast. I've got a wonderful panel here who are very excited to talk about the topic this evening. And we've also got some drinks in front of us and hopefully we're going to stimulate some great conversation. Tonight we're going to be talking about digital doubters. And the context of this is a conversation I had a few months ago with David, who's sitting alongside me here, which was about what happened during COVID. And during COVID we had some big shifts. We're all sitting at home, everybody started to order things online, started to buy things online. And there was a big talk of brands saying, this is it. We can now go direct to consumers. We can now cut out our third-party resellers, our partners. We can just go straight to our consumers, build our user base, and we're going to make a lot more money because all of a sudden we don't have to pay those fees, those charges. We can build our own audience. But the world hasn't been as straightforward as that. And our consumers are not just sticking with brands. They're not just going to websites and buying things. It's becoming complicated. And I think we're moving to a world where executives now are asking questions about digital strategy. Is it delivering what we expected? Is it delivering value for money? Should we be stepping back from it? So we've got an amazing panel who are going to talk about how we might convince digital doubters that this is a great strategy, that digital is the future, that there are ways to deliver return on investment and deliver value for money. So let's do a quick round the table, let you know who's here to talk with us.
Hello everybody, David Royal. I work for a company called Tanhill.ai. We're an AI transformation consultancy. I spent the last 10 years working within the financial services sector, delivering machine learning and AI.
Hi everyone, I'm Jana Wolschmidt. I work for Haleon, currently in R&D department doing operations for scientific services as well as external experts. Before that, I used to work in digital commerce at Haleon, so it was not right during COVID, but after it. So I've been through quite a journey, and I think I've seen a lot of the trends that you were talking about, Chris.
I'm Jim Chetwood from We Are Chain. We're a digital marketing agency down in Dorset, but I'm a massive advocate of digital and I help business owners understand it and try and get the most out of it, and that's why this is exciting.
Hi, I'm David Williams. I'm the founder and owner of DHW Digital, again, e-commerce consultancy, and I've spent 25 years working with brands, setting up and growing their e-commerce channels and working with other parts of the business as well to bring digital into it. So you can guess which side of the fence I sit on.
I'm Alex Walker. I'm an e-commerce consultant and strategist, and I run my own business, which I call Above the Parapet. I've spent 22 years in e-commerce, online marketing, primarily retail, and I spent quite a bit of time doing D2C with various brands. So I feel like I've probably got the credentials to talk in this space, but we'll see how that unfolds.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Peter. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Hearst Networks EMEA, and I also sit on the fence of very much supporting digital. My spend is 100% on digital at the moment, so I'm very excited about this conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. I like the at the moment comment because it kind of says, well, you might change my mind, Chris.
Maybe.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with David because I think, as I said earlier on, it comes with a conversation that we had a few months ago, and you talked about the example I think you gave me was Nike.
Yes.
And Nike saying, yes, we no longer need to go to retail. And I just want to recap that, and I think it's a great starting point for some of these discussions.
Yeah, I think you only have to look at the stock results of where Nike's been at and the big transformation program it's about to go through. But they made a decision, and I used to work for a company called Deckers, who had a running shoe brand, Hoka, who were kind of a small fry compared to Nike. And it was all the talk of Nike are going to cut out all their wholesale partners. You know, they want to sell direct. They want to own the customer. And just to go through that, stop selling to Decathlon or to JD Sports, etc., and run their own thing. But all that's happened during that time is they focus so much on one channel that it's created a situation where they were losing customers to other brands who had a much more diverse situation, using retail partners, using physical stores. Too much focus on performance marketing, digital, so below the line marketing, and it's hurt them. And they're now going through a turnaround. But what's happened during that time is a number of challenger brands, everyone knows On Shoes, Hoka, you've got Saucony, the various other brands, especially the running shoe market, have eaten it. So it just says to me that sometimes a balanced business, a balanced omni-channel, a multi-channel business is what you need to grow your business. So I think, and I don't think it was necessarily around COVID that happened. That obviously probably accelerated it in some ways that could learn that too much. But yeah, it's just that salutary story of being a bit too focused on one area and not really thinking about where your customers are. And I think getting that balance right is really important.
And I think it's I do think that's a great start point, because I think that to me is that essence of the digital doubter. You know, if you're an executive sitting at the top of Nike, having been burned, if you're a competitor of Nike, if you're working in that business, you're now asking yourself that question. Right? What do we get wrong? How do we fix this? How do we make sure that we deliver what we're supposed to deliver? And the answer isn't digital, or is it? I mean, I'm curious. What are your thoughts when you hear that story? When you hear brands trying to be more digitally focused, does that turn you on, or does it make you think, yes, but be careful?
I think you get some brands just try to be, the early adopter and take things too far, and actually you do need to step back and have the traditional stuff, but you've got to mix it up, mixing out, because people want to have an interaction with, face to face. People buy from people, so digital can only do so much. You need to have that people can buy from people thing going on.
Yeah,
but try stuff out, see if it works. If it doesn't, and that's what they've done.
So people buy from people. I read some stuff, I'm going to come over to you, David, around AI, because I read something recently about, you can just replace your people with AI. So you can have online conversations, you can have communities. Is that where we're at? Is that what you would suggest to people?
You can do an awful lot with AI. The need for that human still to be in the loop is still critical. And we've all seen the hallucinations and the mistakes that have occurred with AI and chatbots that have started recommending competitors, etc. But actually, with the right validation, having to Chrysler, it's a reality. And the customers are interacting with it and actually encouraging it to suggest other manufacturers. So that's an example of how you've got to make sure you control it, have the guardrails. So I think a lot of people will be replaced. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, but there's still going to be a need for people to be part of that, to do the validation and the reassurance.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's about the role of the channels as well. So I come from a business that is closer to FMCG, let's say, so it's not quite running shoes. So as you would imagine, painkillers like paracetamol is sold through multiple channels. And when we think UK, of course, a massive one is Tesco, Sainsbury's, you name it, we're there. And then I think what happened is that for our customers over COVID, they went crazy about delivery. They've seen Ocado growing and taking over the business. Amazon was very active as well. And they were like, we can't miss on that opportunity. We need to invest in delivery, right? So they all moved in that space. They all asked manufacturers to support. But then when you think about how their P&L is working, delivery cost doesn't cover for actual infrastructure to run the whole grocery being delivered online. And then I think that, like in this channel, omni-channel as we call it, that's a different dynamic because they find themselves in this, I want to say, trap. On the one hand, they can't let it go because their competitors are doing it. Their consumers want it. We're now at delivery 100%. I don't go to stores anymore to, pick up rice or vegetables. What's the point of carrying it? but then it's not profitable. So you want to grow it, but you don't really. And then I guess it's another question, how do you talk to your executives about it, right? That's a choice. Do you want to lose in this channel, or do you want to still be profitable? That's the choice.
I think one of the problems that you have with it, and I think the COVID thing came out, was it was very tactical, of a need and necessity at that time, knowing that people could not go to physical locations really, maybe wearing masks and 3 feet away from each other. But it was a tactical necessity. But what you need is an operating model shift. You need to change your operating model, which I think a lot of businesses went, yeah, we want to do this. It's either and, either or. But they tried to do and that added an additional cost level that was unsustainable. So if you're going to do it properly these days, you really need to have an operating model shift, which means bringing in the rest of the business, and then your total cost of ownership and cost of serving customers should reduce.
And that's that. Yeah. It's not technology overlay. It's not the digital overlay. It's how you actually do the transformation of the business. And actually, you need to change the people, the process, the technology, all in combination to get the outcome you need.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting about, as I see it, there's an underestimation of the value of what retail partners bring to the relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I think is a question that people don't think through enough. That the way I see it when I'm talking to my clients is, your job is your brand and your product, but your retailer's job, whoever that is about bringing customers to it. And the Nike story that we started with, I think, is a great example of that. Of Nike suddenly had to take full responsibility for bringing all of their customers to their locations, whether that was a physical store or whether that was a web store or website store. Whereas before, they didn't have to worry about that. And I think that's what people underestimate, is the role of the part of, like, your retail partner, whoever that retail partner is, in bringing customers to you. And that's a tough question to answer.
And it's an audience, isn't it? It's having a bigger, they have an audience. It's I think of like raindrops that splash. And you can, do you want to be one big raindrop that splashes, but you've got a reach which is only that big, or do you want to have lots of little raindrops? And they might overlap and splash over each other, but that your surface area of your customers is bigger. And customers need to see that. They need to see it. They need to touch and feel your product versus another competitor's product. And if your product's better, we'll try it on. Yeah. Then they'll want to see that. But they're not going to do that if that's just with you. You need to amplify yourself for your retail partners. And by the way, they're also online as well. Let's not forget. They're all, but it's you need to have that there, and they all have different demographics. I go back to footwear, but a JD Sports customer is very different from an Office Shoes customer. They're much, or a runner's need customer, which is Runner Need, by the way, is a specialist footwear shop. They'll be like, you guys who run, you'll be going there, you'll have really technical needs and elements there. You'll be looking at specialty running footwear. But JD Sports is going to be a much younger demographic. If you're just trying to be all of it in one place, it's not going to work.
Yeah. I'm going to come to you, Kelly, because I think you live this every day, because you're living with partner marketing and you're living with direct to user or consumer. How do you consumer marketing? So how do you get that right? Because your partners bring in a lot of your audience, and so what's the strategy? What's the balance around that?
Yeah. So to clarify, my marketing spend is for digital, but we do have an omni-channel approach. We do leverage our partners significantly. We are a joint venture with Sky, and so as part of that, we do, and Hearst Networks, obviously, that's our name, but through Sky, we end up getting on-air support. So we don't have to pay for above the line. So I should have clarified that. We don't have to pay for it. We get it, which is brilliant. So we get the cross-channel support. And again, I think going back to talking about footwear and talking about other brands and products are all very different, and how you approach them needs to be very different and very specific. So how I approach it, yes, I look at an omni-channel approach. We have our partner support, Sky, Virgin, but then, and that's traditional TV, so linear support, if you will. Then we have our streaming services. So again, rely very, very heavily on our partners. We have Amazon, we have Apple, and Samsung, we also have our direct to consumer proposition. So all of those, we try to look at a platform agnostic approach, but we're also using different levers, if you will, to push to those different products. With Amazon, you use Ads, which is within their ecosphere. We can now market outside of Amazon because they've removed that barrier to entry of being a Prime member to sign up for channels. So that's brilliant for us, where we can actually now use other forms of digital to kind of drive to the Amazon platform. But when I look at our overarching plans and our strategy for the year, it all has to ladder up to our revenue. So I am a commercial marketer. When I think about marketing, I don't look at, dare I say, brand awareness as much as maybe I should. But I don't know. That's a debate. I think we've talked about the struggle for me is never getting digital buy-in. It's more of the bigger picture, getting the board to believe in awareness, and that we should spend money on awareness when we're getting that from our partners, from that top of the that above the line support that we're getting from Sky and potentially from Virgin through our partnerships. So that's kind of that's where my kind of struggle more has been. Again, is pitching awareness plays, where now when I pitch digital plays, I still have to go through the whole process. It's all about laddering back up to what is the revenue. And if marketing's not paying for itself, that's a difficult sell-in. My approach is always test and learn, always. So if it's not working, we pull it, we pause it. That's the beauty of digital. The beauty of digital is that we can optimize every single day if we want to. Not that you always want to, but we can look at it daily, and it's all data driven. And so when you're doing a pitch for the board, everything, you can pull audience data to align with yours and then build it out from there. So it's a kind of foolproof, foul-proof pitch, if you will, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what is the question? So it's an interesting discussion that Kelly raises of, are we driving brand awareness digitally? Is that the strategy? Is that what people should be focusing on, raising your brand awareness? Or is it about clicks and sales? Is that your focus when you're digital?
I think you've got to have a very good understanding of what your channel is actually trying to achieve.
Yes.
And that answer is not the same for anyone sat in the room or probably any two businesses. Nike's an interesting one to talk about. I mean, I've always felt that Nike, and whether I'm right or wrong on this, but this is my impression. I always felt that Nike did a very good job of saying, right, okay, we're kind of the gold standard here. So selling the shoes at the price that they're, the RRP, rather than trying to undercut your resellers, and actually trying to, as I say, the answer is never going to be the same for two businesses, but you can sometimes look at your D2C and go, well, actually, I'm not really expecting to make any money out of this. It's a brand awareness type thing. I've worked for pet food retailers where, in actual fact, they're there. If you want to buy a bag of dog food, that's fine, but you're not really approaching feeding your pet in quite the same way. Habitually, you're likely to go to the supermarket and add a bag of dog food into a physical process that you engage in. But the reason you've chosen that bag of dog food is the brand awareness piece that's happened because of that channel that exists. It's always going to make a loss in theory, whereas actually for the likes of Nike, or I've seen this in the big trade as well, actually your D2C channel is perhaps your strongest suit. It really is the revenue driver.